I will have to put my sunglasses on back and forth because they're prescription. So, okay. Welcome to RBKC's Licensing Subcommittee, and thank you for attending. This hearing is being live streamed. I'm Councillor Janet Evans, and I will be chairing the meeting. The committee for this hearing comprises Councillor Marie-Therese Rossi, Councillor Linda Wade, and me. We are joined by our, who's here from the licensing team? Paul Phelan. Yeah, Paul Phelan, and our legal officer, Lindsay Lemasurier. Also with us are our committee officers, Jerome Treherne and Nima Mahudin. Before we start the hearing, just a few ground rules, please. Keep your microphones on mute until you are invited to speak, as only 2 microphones can work at any time. And please make sure your mobile phones are on silent. Thank you. The case before us today is to grant a license for Little Julie's, 102 Portland Road. I confirm that I have no declarations of interest to make regarding this item. Do the other members have any declarations to make? Councillor Rossi?
I have no.
Councillor Wade?
I have no.
No. For clarity, your microphone's not working.
Do you want to try the one further down?
Let me turn.
Declaration.
Thank you, colleagues. For clarity, I will outline the procedure for this meeting, which has already been circulated with the papers. First, the licensing officer will give a brief outline, and he will explain the application. Please, could you confirm your attendance?
Good morning, Chair. Present.
Good. Thank you. Then I will ask the applicant's legal advisor, Ms. Lana Tricker, to present her submission.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Is your microphone working?
It is,
Thank
Chair.
you. She will have up to a maximum of 10 minutes to do so. She is joined by her clients, Tara McBain, Rupert Walsh, and Owen Kenworthy, who may be able to assist members should they have any questions. Please, could you all confirm your attendance?
Tara McBain, I'm here. Thank you, Chair.
Hi, I'm Owen Kenworthy. Thank you, Chair.
Rupert Walsh. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Then questions may be asked of the applicant by members of the committee, the legal officer, and the objectors. Next, the supporter, Ms. Judith Rifkin. You're here? There.
Yes, I'm here.
Yes. Will present her submission. She will have up to a maximum of 10 minutes to do so. Then questions may be asked of the supporter by members of the committee, the legal officer, and the objectors. Next, the objectors. Sophie Hammond, Jenny Shaw, Andrew Melvin, Natasha Ramlogan, and Richard Hammond. Not here. 3 of you are here. Okay.
Who's missing then, sorry?
Yes. Sophie Hammond? Okay. Jenny Shaw? Okay, so out. Andrew Melvin? Okay. Natasha Ramlogan? Okay. And Richard Hammond? Okay. So you're both from the same premises, is that correct? Okay. Do we need to have both of them present?
They've both made objections, so they're both entitled to
Okay.
speak.
Okay. You'll each have a maximum of 10 minutes, but I would ask that you do not repeat the same points, please. Please, could you all confirm? Yep, thank you. Then questions may be asked of the objectors by members of the committee, the legal officer, the applicant, and the supporter. After this, we will ask our legal officer, Ms. Le Masurier, to deal with any questions she may have, and then she will lead on the draft conditions session. The list of potential conditions has been circulated to all of the parties prior to the hearing. Please, could you confirm your attendance?
Present, Chair.
Thank you. Then finally, we will turn to the governance team to see if any issues have been raised that we need to consider. There will be no summing up and the meeting will end. I would like to remind everyone that the committee has read the papers, which comprises the main pack and the additional submissions from the applicant and the objector and supporter that have been circulated to the parties. So there is no need to repeat their content, but please do draw our attention to certain points and pages. Let's get going. Yeah. Mr. Phelan, please can you outline the case for us and advise if there have been any additional documentation received?
Chair, members of the subcommittee, good morning all. The matter before you today is an application by Julie's Restaurant Limited for the grant of a premises licence in respect of Little Julie's, 102 Portland Road, London, W11 4LX. The premises will operate as a cafe deli, covering the basement and ground floor. The application seeks authorisation for the sale by retail of alcohol, both on and off the premises. The proposed hours are Monday to Sunday, 8 a.m. to 11 p.m, with the premises closing to the public at 11:30 p.m, Chair. A non-standard timing is sought to permit sales of alcohol from the end of permitted hours on New Year's Eve through to the start of permitted hours on New Year's Day. For reference, Chair, a copy of the application is attached as Appendix A, with the plans of the premises attached as Appendix B. This application has attracted 12 representations objecting to the grant of the application, alongside 2 additional representations which are in support of the application. Copies of these representations are attached at Appendix C and D respectively, Chair. At the time of writing a report, no noise complaints have been recorded on the Council database within the last 24 months. Council records also indicate that no temporary event notices had been submitted within the previous 12 months. The Planning Department has not made a formal representation in connection with this application, but as an informative for the subcommittee, the Planning Department has advised that the premises are located within a conservation area and it is not currently designated as a listed building. There is no relevant planning history associated with the address, except for a previously granted application for the installation of awnings. It should be noted that any external alteration to the building may require planning permission, as may any proposed change of use. The licensee's proposal is in accordance with planning history. A copy of the planning officer's email, which specified that previous sentence, is attached as Appendix E. Finally, Chair, I can confirm that the following additional documents were circulated ahead of this hearing. An email from Judith Rivkin, a supporter to the application, an email submitted by Councillors Petit and Councillor Lindsay, detailing supporting comments of a local resident, an email from Andrew Melvin, an objector to the application, and an additional 19-page document from the applicant submitted on behalf of the applicant by Ms. Lana Trigger. You will now hear from the applicant and those who have made representations. I'm happy to provide any further clarification as required. I'll leave it there for now. Thank you, Chair.
I just want to clarify. You said you got an email from David Lindsay?
Councillor Lindsay, yes. There was an email from Councillor Petit. Essentially, both her and Councillor Lindsay. Councillor Petit has made a comment in support of the application. That was supported by Councillor Lindsay. Mm-hmm. The additional document that I referred to a moment ago was passed on by Councillor Petit, and it was from a local resident.
Okay. Yep. Yes. They haven't. Okay.
So just to be clear, it was Councillor Petit's additional submission that just mentioned that Councillor Lindsay supported it. It wasn't a separate representation from Councillor Lindsay. It was just referenced by Councillor Petit.
Precisely, that's correct.
That's it.
And what about the Residents Association?
Sorry, Chair, I didn't reference that in my opening statement. Was there a precise question about the association?
There's been no separate
No.
Letter of support from the Residents Association. Everything that Mr. Phelan has just mentioned are the only additional submissions.
Okay.
Some of the submissions might have referenced other people supporting, but there haven't been separate additional submissions from Councillor Lindsay or from, I believe, is it the Clarendon Cross, our Residents Association?
Okay.
They've just been referenced, that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Now for the applicant's case. Ms. Tricker, please can you advise if there have been any amendments to your application?
No, Chair.
Thank you. Please can you now present your submission? You have up to 10 minutes to do so.
Thank you and good morning.
Good
As
morning.
we've heard, this is a new grant application. I've done some written submissions, which I know you've read, with some additional conditions. I will refer to that throughout my presentation. I begin by the operating style of the premises, as concern has been raised by some of the residents in their representations. Rumours have been circulating this is a nightclub bar in the local community, and this is just not the case. I've included pictures of the layout of the premises in my written submissions. Little Julie's is an all-day eatery, cafe and deli style operation. The premises has 19 seats only, so it's very small. It's been operating unlicensed for just under a month, obviously not selling alcohol, and it's been popular and well run. It's over the ground floor and basement, although the basement is not for licensable activities, it's just back of house and toilets and storage as well. And this can be conditioned as suggested by the legal officer. So we're really just concerned with the ground floor operation of the premises. Being a community local premises, it's informal. Patrons can come in, have a croissant, coffee, or just a glass of champagne if they want. If they like a bottle of beer, we want them to be able to buy that bottle of wine, etc., and take that away in a sealed container. My client wants to be able to give people the flexibility of attending the establishment without requiring the individual to consume a meal. It may be that there's 3 out of 4 people attending the premises that want food, and they want to be able to serve these groups, and it's needed for business. And considering that, we do need to take into account the style of the operation, which is as a cafe deli. Comment has been made by the representations that concern with Julie's restaurant opposite. It's the same owners, I agree with that, but it's not a review of any other premises in terms of complaints, and it's entirely different concepts, Julie's and Little Julie's, different hours and different capacities. Having said that, there is also much support for Julie's restaurant, as the supporting documents show. At Little Julie's, we don't want people standing like at a bar. This is not the intention, and so we've conditioned it that everyone must be seated throughout, and people need to be seated to have a drink. There will be table service as well. From the plans at page 28 of the papers, you'll see there's no open areas for patrons to be crammed in standing in any event. There is seating at high counters around the outside, and there's a central service bar and food preparation area, and that also has seating around it. So there's just 19 seats. We do not have large numbers within this premises. There'll be no loud music playing, background music at best. We note that there's no representation from environmental health, and we've already agreed conditions based on the prevention of nuisance to the effect of no music or amplified sound will give rise to a nuisance, no noise or vibration associated with plant will give rise to a nuisance, no smells will give rise to a nuisance, and there's notices for people leaving and smoking, dispersal policy, and the doors being closed at 9 p.m. As mentioned above, we do have a dispersal policy, and we've conditioned this, and my client will implement this. The good thing about this operation is that there's no mass exodus of people at any one time. People come in at different times and leave at staggered times once they've finished, so it's much easily managed, and reminders can be given when they pay their bill. My client knows the importance of working with the neighbours and authorities. They can agree a residents' meeting by way of condition if members think this small operation needs it. And I do note that the application is supported by the ex-chair of the Clarendon Cross Residents Association, and many residents, and the operator does have a good relationship with the community, as the supporting documents shown. And residents have turned up behind, taking time out of their day to also support the applicant in this application, as you can see from those sitting behind me. I do need to mention off sales. May apply for a pavement licence. We haven't done so yet. That's a separate application and not for consideration here, but it does relate to off sales, obviously, with the change in legislation. Off sales is needed, and that can be happily limited to 10 p.m. if need be. But of course, that's dictated by the times on the pavement licence in any event. We say to grant the off sales for this is entirely reasonable, and the licence, if granted, the pavement licence, would be subject to its own enforcement processes and renewal processes each year. We also want off sales in sealed containers. As I said earlier, we are part of a deli operation, and if patrons want to buy a nice bottle of wine, we want them to be able to do so. It's not a large part of the operation, but it is important to the business. Staff and management will have the full understanding of restraints, and there will be training, can be managed, and certainly don't want the premises to be on the radar of the residents. Challenge 25 will be implemented and signage in place as well. The premises is a commercial space, and so it will be occupied, and my clients tried to balance these conditions that have been offered with the neighbouring area. A lot of conditions have been offered to promote the licensing objectives, and we also need to consider when discussing these conditions that this operation is a 19-seater cafe deli for the families in the local communities. In terms of the hours, we do seek 11 p.m. We note there's no environmental health or police representation against the application, so there's no concerns with crime and disorder or noise and nuisance in respect of an 11 p.m. terminal hour. We have, obviously, since added further conditions to crystallise the commitment to promoting the licensing objectives. These will also be one of the earliest hours in the immediate area. We have tried to be reasonable in terms of the application and with rents, business rates that have to be paid. And we've offered conditions which try, and we say do, offer protection to the residents. We do think the application and the proposed conditions achieve the balance that's required when considering these applications. And most importantly, this premises could operate to 11 p.m. as a cafe deli, albeit without being licensed for the sale of alcohol, as an unlicensed premises. So to grant this application for a small premises would, however, bring enforceable conditions to this premises and bring it under the monitoring of the Licensing Act, which would only protect the residents and ensure the licensing objectives are being met. So this is a positive outcome for the residents. We understand not all our amendments will satisfy everyone, but we do think they address the fears that have arisen and will ensure the premises are operated, especially as the responsible authorities have not put in any representations. In terms of the proposed conditions circulated yesterday, they are agreed as well. The additional conditions have been offered in my presentation as well, relating to annual residents' meetings and 10 p.m. terminal hours for tables and chairs outside, and smokers can be limited to five people.
Let's discuss the conditions during the condition session. Then everyone can have input.
I agree, that's fine. So that's all I want to say in relation to this application, and we're here to answer any operational questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the committee? We'll start with Councillor Wade.
Thank you very much. I looked at the design, and it looks very nice, but it doesn't look like a deli. And I just wondered whether you could outline precisely what your food offer is, because I can see that you do prep in the basement, but then there's that central island which says food preparation and bar. Is it possible that is it more like a trat rather than a deli, i.e. that you have more prepared food that could be taken home, like a substantial meal?
I'll pass this through to Tara because she'll be able to be more precise.
Thank you. The central island will be for presenting food, but food will also be prepared downstairs and then brought upstairs. So, for example, during the day we might have some sandwiches laid out, but they will be freshly prepared downstairs and then laid on the main sort of servery bar. Sorry. And then the prep area that is found on the ground floor, that is for example, assembling a salad or assembling pre-prepared food.
So you're saying salads and,
So we'll have salads.
and stuff on upstairs, but you haven't actually answered my question, which is, what is the food that you're serving? Is it merely salads? Is it olives? Is it what I'd call small sides? Or is it actually food that you could take home and cook? I mean, put in the microwave or whatever.
Yeah, do you want to go ahead? Yeah. So I'll pass you to the chef.
Hi there, sorry, my name's Owen Kenwood again, I'm chef patron, so I'll be responsible for the food at Little Julie's. So yeah, the idea is that the deli during the day, the cafe deli, we're going to be providing like breads, sausage rolls, sourdough loaves, and like Tara said, there'll be salads and things that we can toss through. And then when people sit down, we might do like a bowl of soup or a sandwich. Downstairs is mainly going to be for baking and like Tara said, preparation of food. But overall, the food is going to be very, very small side plates, like you say, for eat-in. And then takeaway will be maybe like pies or things that people can take home and bake at home. Or maybe, like you say, maybe some mince that they can reheat in the microwave. So it will be potentially takeaway food and small plates, yeah.
Thank you. I'll hand over to my...
Yeah, Ms. Tricker, you say that it is a cafe deli, and yet you also say, and not a bar, you also say that people can come in and have a glass of champagne if they want, or a bottle of beer. Now, you've also said that you don't want to have to tie the sale of alcohol to a meal, and we have just understood that the actual offer of food is small plates and, you know, really not very substantial. So, you know, from my way of looking at it, it sounds more like a bar than a cafe deli that, you know, is not serving lasagna or anything like that. It's just sandwiches, salads, some soup perhaps, or some small side plates. But basically, people can just come in off the street. Okay, they have to be seated, but they can just have alcohol. So you can see why some of the residents might feel that this is in fact a bar by another name. Thank you.
I certainly understand the concern of residents through this, and we have in offering the seated condition in terms of the sale of alcohol. The fact of the matter is this is a very small premises. There is seating. There is no standing or circulating of the premises. People come for a purpose. Food is offered. Food is available at all times through there, and there are large groups. This is a community premises through there. There might be a group of 4 people, as I said in my presentation, that come in and want to have a pie, a sausage roll, a lovely fresh sandwich or salad to deal with that, and they would like to have a glass of wine through there. There may be a 4th person in that group that just comes to meet them. This is not a destination venue in the sense of people will be coming from elsewhere to arrive at this venue and just drink. This is a community premises which will be dealing with that. It is a very small premises. People can come in, but it's also an all-day eatery, and that is how it is marketed. That is how it's seen for the local community.
But with respect, people also sit at a bar, and with respect, some bars are actually quite small. But what you seem to be saying is that food is not the major part of this offer. That's what I'm understanding.
Absolutely not. Food is the major part of what this offering is, and alcohol is not a large part in terms of what this offering is. It is an important offering, however, in terms of clientele that we need to service that come into the premises. There are many people that will just come in and have a sandwich without alcohol through there to deal with it. And there'll be fresh juices and coffees for sale as well, which will be quite popular. What the premises wants is some flexibility to be able to service the people in this day and age with the problems that are arisen from local premises, and want to be able to have that offering and not turn away large groups of people, 4 people or whatever, if only 3 want to eat a meal. There will be knives and forks, they will be set out through there, they'll be seated, and you'll see from the pictures that have been distributed, I think it does show that it is a food-led cafe-style operation.
Thank you.
You say that, but if I go into a deli, I normally see pasta or olives in jars, and the presentation, you have things that people can just come in and buy. So that, I don't think that I'm particularly satisfied by the food offer, but significantly, because the bar is small, and because it's in a very narrow, because of its unique location on a corner, I haven't really seen how you're going to manage people within it. Also, I can understand people coming in for a sandwich during the day, but actually you're applying for alcohol license until 11 o'clock, and I haven't thought of going to...
Excuse me, what's your question?
Well, it comes back to, I can see how the offer for food that they're presenting works during the day, all right? But I don't see how it applies for perhaps people after 6 o'clock.
Can you respond to that, please?
Certainly, I'm going to pass to Tara just in relation to the queries in relation to Tara, and I noted, Councillor, you did refer to it as a bar, and it's not a bar. I just need to emphasise through that.
Thank you, Councillor Wade. So I think that when Chef Owen and I answered your question earlier, we were talking about the prepared food offering, because that's what the question was leading to. We will, as you mentioned, like other delis, be selling also, I won't say package, but we will be selling, for example, the Little Julie's homemade butter. We will be selling things in jars as well. The exact offering for our dry food and not prepared food is still under consideration. But yes, if you imagine you walk in at 8 a.m., you grab your croissant and you grab your a juice, and then you have a small cooked breakfast, and then you come back around at lunchtime and you have your freshly made salad, and you want to accompany that with a glass of wine, and then let's say you come back in the evening at 5 p.m. and you'd like a charcuterie board with and some nice local British fresh cheeses. So we want to cater to all of that. So, and the reason for that is because it's what we feel like the community needs around there. So kind of a sort of one-stop shop or one-stop location to be able to provide all that. It's not at all, just I think to bring it back a step, it's not at all designed to be a bar. That was not the intention when I leased the premise in the first place. The purpose was as an all-day eatery and deli that does want to be licensed for alcohol. I mean, in this day and age, it's very hard, and the location that we are to make any money if you don't have an alcohol license. So it is not the primary objective of the premise.
Thank you.
Just in relation to dispersal, because we talked about managing patrons was the second part of the question. The premises has 19 seats through there, so yes, there will be people going in to buy the dry goods, etc., or some prepared foods, but they will be in paying and will be dispersing. It's not like it is a bar where people stay till the terminal hour and then everyone leaves at the same time. Having said that, it's 19 people, but there still could be an impact. I appreciate that. in terms of being an all-day eatery, and people eat at different times, finish work at different times from the local community, people will be dispersing at different times. We've offered a dispersal condition that will be staffed as well, who will be trained in the conditions of the licence. We're happy with that condition. And they will be able to speak to clients when they leave. The bulk will be community, local people. So we don't anticipate there being a lot of cars and vehicles in terms of arriving, dispersing from the premises to affect parking spots as well. This is a community people. It will be easily managed in terms of if it was full, there'd be 19 people seating down, having a meal, perhaps having a glass of wine with it, etc. But they will be easily dispersed. They will leave at different times. They will pay their bills at different times. They will be ordering food at different times. So the kitchen downstairs, which is small, but can be managed in terms of providing those filters, and people will be able to leave at different times. And the staff who are when they're paying their bill are also trained in terms of dispersal and finding out how they're leaving. You can see from the number of residents that have turned up behind us, it is a very close-knit community, and they're all well known in terms of these operators. So they know where they live, they know to respect the neighbourhood, they live in the local neighbourhood.
Okay, now I'll ask some questions. You answered about food. What is the connection with the other Julies?
It is the same ownership in terms of the Julies across the road. So that they've had success, they've had a great community feel, great community engagement through there, and they've taken on the lease for this premises with an entirely different concept. Because remember, they don't want to take business away from Julie's in terms of it and compete with each other. It is a different style of business that we're operating here.
Okay. What was there before you?
A vegan chocolatier.
Okay, and then it was empty for a while, is that correct?
So it was, the latest was a vegan chocolatier, and prior to that it was Fired Earth, the tiles company. The vegan chocolatier was the first, I guess, food-related business there for a while, but I believe there were some in the past as well.
Right. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Now, I can see what residents are worried about. It's not based on anything that's happened, it's based on what could be. So, what are you going to do about smoking outside and people standing outside with a drink, which they are not licensed for, right? They're not asking for that, are they? No. No.
Stand outside with soft drinks at the
Right,
moment.
so that you can have soft drinks outside. So let's talk about that. What's the plan here?
So again, I mean, I'll come into Tara can respond to any points that I miss. But again, I emphasise this is a small premises through there. In terms of smoking, we don't anticipate a lot of smokers. We don't have those at Julie's to deal with that. I think a proposal was for 5 smokers, a maximum. We're happy to limit it to 5 smokers for some flexibility through there. But the important thing here is the management and the staff that are working at the premises. It's a small premises with windows you can see what's happening outside. If they get a pavement licence, there will also be seating outside as well, and that will be staffed. So it is a community premises, as I said. There will be staff training in terms of going up to people, speaking to them, ensuring compliance with conditions, and asking people to move on if need be. So there won't be any large groups of people either dispersing the premises or congregating out of the premises. Do you want to add anything?
Okay, and are you planning to apply for any TENs? Am I allowed to ask that?
We don't have any plans at this particular stage, but it is the right under the Licensing Act to apply for a 10. I can't categorically say we're not going to apply for 10s, but the business model is for 11 p.m. Trading through there. It's a small premises, so I can't imagine, Tara will correct me if there's going to be events, that will require later licence through there.
I guess because it's a small premises, it probably does lend itself to office parties, things like that.
Sorry, we don't have any intention to use it as a private space. That's not in our plan, and also it's not in the current interior design setup either. And it simply also just doesn't fit enough people in order to on one single table, because we have the seating around, and that's not a very social kind of seating arrangement for an office party. And then you just have the main communal table, which would be just a very, very small office party.
And in terms of that, one would expect that if there is an office party, not that there's any intention to do that, people would want to stand up and mingled, and we have agreed a condition that everyone be seated. And as Tara said, just the design of that, facing out to the window and then around the central service bar, doesn't lend itself to that at all.
Right. Okay. Now, we have seen a tendency we have another one going on, where the main premises also takes a smaller premises, because that's nearby, as part of a business plan, which is fine. Is that your intention? You feel it'll increase your business, or?
Not at all. When Julie's was purchased 2 years ago, this was not in the plans at all. It is not in my business plan. It is, even though it sits within the same company, on Companies House, it is not at all the same business plan. It is not. Our financials are completely separate. The team will be completely separate. The only overarching thing between the two is the ownership and the food direction from Chef Patron. That is the only two linking things, and the fact that it's called Little Julie's, but that's purely a branding and marketing strategy versus anything else.
Okay, I'll now call on our legal advisor.
I don't have any questions, but anything else will come out in the draft condition
Do the
session.
objectors have any questions? No. Okay. Sorry? Put my glasses on. Okay. Turn on your microphone, please. And introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Natasha Ramlogan from 120 Portland Road. Just a question about the no plan for the temp license. One of the earlier emails that was sent to all of us, it stated from Miss McBain, it's specifically made reference to the fact that she was planning to use the premises to host small parties and events. So I'm a bit private parties. So we're a bit confused about why she's now asserting that there's no plans, there's never been any plans to apply for a temp license.
Well, they're two different things.
So could you explain the difference, please?
I think she will.
Yes, please, thank you.
So
So I can go. Okay. So an informal email before the plans were set out for the premises were mentioning private dining. That doesn't relate to a TENS license. We can have a private event of up to 19 people, and that ends before the time of 11 p.m. That has nothing to do with applying for a TENS license. We are fully able to have, I think from the legal perspective, I'll let you.
The ordinary trade, should the license be granted, we have offered a condition that says anyone having alcohol will be seated through there. So that would apply for a private event, for anything through there. Regardless, if they want to depart from any conditions, they would need to apply for a temporary event notice, which basically bypasses the licence through there. It's considered separately, and the authorities can object to that. You've heard there's no intention in terms of their business model that's being sent to apply for a temporary event notice for any particular events at the premises, but it's a separate permission that anyone that holds a licence is or doesn't hold a licence is entitled to apply for.
Any other questions from the objectors? Sorry.
I have one, but it's about about the restrictions, so I should ask you the restrictions. I have one, but it's
Mr.
my name is
Hammond,
Richard Hammond.
correct?
Richard Hammond. I have one, but it's about about the restrictions, so I should ask it in the restrictions bit, should I?
I think when we have conditions, no?
Conditions, sorry, whatever.
If it's to do with the
It's
conditions.
just a quick one. That is that if you have a sort of artificially early closing time, you know, in terms of mitigating the effects of it being open later, I don't understand how that fits in with everyone's going to leave at different times. Surely everyone's going to leave at the artificially early closing time, be that 9 or 8 or whatever it is. And that would be seen to be natural, in that your restaurant is full to the brim until the outside closing time, and then everyone goes inside. It's going to be very similar to that, is it not?
No.
Sorry, we don't understand your question.
They've said there'll be a staggered leaving of people. People will not all leave at the same time.
Right.
If there's a condition whereby the alcohol licence is earlier than would otherwise be allowed for a bar, then surely the fact that it's earlier means that everyone will leave at that time. Because naturally people will stay till 11 or 12 or whatever in a bar. If the thing shuts at 9, there's going to be a lot of people leaving at 9.
That's not a question, just hold it a minute.
We can discuss potential times at the draft conditions session.
But I just don't understand why they think the leaving times will be staggered. That's my question.
Just by the very nature of the premises through there, it's not Julie's, it is a separate business model to deal with that. It has earlier times, people eat at different times, people will arrive at different times to have their meal. It is a much smaller premises as well, so people will not be all served their bills, etc., at the terminal hour, so people will naturally stagger their leaving time. People have different commitments to go for. At Julie's there are formal booking times, there are groups where you arrive at this seating time, you arrive at that seating time, and that's to maximise their licence through there. This is an entirely different business model and a much smaller operation through there. So we have no doubt that people will leave at different times, whether they're buying something to microwave at home or whether they're coming to sit down for a meal, etc.
Thank you. I think we'll go now to the supporter, Ms. Judith Ripkin. You have 10 minutes to present.
Good morning. I'm here as just a supporter in the neighborhood, a close neighbor, and my experience is as a neighbor who has appreciated Julie's presence and what they've done for the Clarendon Cross area, and also based on my professional and personal, volunteer experience with city planning licenses and this kind of stuff. And so in my letter I wrote, I truly believe, I'm appreciative that the presence of Julie's at Clarendon Cross has made the neighborhood a safer place, a cleaner place, and probably has improved property values for those who care about that. I know that we're talking about Little Julie's, which is separate. We're not talking about Julie's, but it does seem relevant to look at the experience of this ownership team who is here. I'm taking the morning to be here because I feel very strongly that they've proven that they can be trusted in what they're saying. I think we're lucky. There are lots of applications to do lots of things, and you don't really know what's going to happen. You might not really know the people. But here we're lucky because we really know these people. When there have been very minor things that I've ever pointed out, like, a cigarette butt, that's been taken care of instantly. When I've been frustrated because I haven't been able to get my table or I really want to squeeze in and have a drink, and said, well, can't I just sit on the bench over there? They have said, absolutely not. Our license does not allow you to be outside this set area. So, they've proven themselves to be good, responsible neighbors, and personally, I've heard them, you know, explain the rules and make sure that people are abiding by the rules. I want to, you know, I was at a community meeting at the Earl of Lonsdale last night. All right, I wasn't eating food at Earl of Lonsdale or having a nice glass of wine. You know, I was there for the meeting and I had a pint. As we're walking home at 9:30, I really, you know, I looked at Julie's and said, oh, I really wish that I could have sat somewhere and just had a nice small dish and a nice little glass of wine. This Little Julie's will really satisfy a need in the neighborhood to have an informal drop-in place where you can pick up something and go. You can sit for 20 minutes and have a little glass of wine. I just feel like a lot of the concerns, it's just, it is not a bar. I know that it's not intended to be a bar. It's a place where last night I could have stopped in and had a salad and a glass of wine. It's not going to be high traffic. It's not going to be high noise. And I think they've proven themselves, you know, with their record that they're going to help keep things safe in the neighborhood. I live back around at Hippodrome Mews, and, you know, Walmer Road has a very different sort of safety profile than Clarendon Cross right now, because Julie's is there. There are eyes on the street. And that's a really valuable thing for anything that could be going on in the neighborhood. So I don't want to repeat myself, but, you know, I think we have cause to trust the management, and their goals are really very modest here. It is what it says. It's small bites and drop in, and it really will serve the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, committee members, do you have any questions? No. Councillor Wade.
I realize that you think that this might be a nice place to pop in at later in the evening, but what you've described to me is more like a bar than a deli.
So what's your question?
So if it's a deli, it's providing food with the presumption that you take it home. So when you go in later in the evening, do you buy food and then take it home?
Well, if I may respond, I think it's just both. It's informal. There's nothing like it in the neighborhood. You know, there's Spec Deli where you can get food to take away, but, you know, they're closed. There was one time that I went into 6 Portland Road and begged them, even though they don't do takeaway, I said, please have one of your salads, I'm desperate. And I just didn't have, you know, the supplies at home. But I mean, I think Little Julie's is intending to be both. You can sit and have a light bite and a glass of wine, or I'm sure I've already had their sausage roll. You know, they'll have some prepared foods that you can take away. And it's designed for that. Other restaurants in the area are not designed for takeaway, so that's why they're calling it a deli. But it's not a place where I would go and sit and drink cocktails with my friends all night. It's not intended to be that. It's not a bar.
Legal officer?
No questions.
Objectors, any questions? Mrs. Hammond?
Yeah, it's Richard Hammond again. Hi, just seeking clarification. I think I might have misheard. Did you say that you'd never been allowed to seat outside the licensed area of Julie's, which is 3.5 metres from the shop front? Is that what you said? They're quite strict about that, did you say? I think I might have misheard. Did you say you've never been allowed, or people aren't allowed to sit outside the licensed area of the current Julie's? Like, they're very strict about it.
That's correct. I've seen them.
Which is 3.5 metres from the shop front.
I've seen them enforce that. It's
okay,
just my experience.
Thank you. I thought I'd misheard. That's all.
Another question, yes?
Hello, it's Sophie Hammond. I just wondered if you could expand on why you think the area is safer now.
Could you speak into the mic, please? Thank you.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Would you mind just expanding on why you think that Clarendon Cross is safer now? It's always been a very safe area, and I don't think the presence of Julie's there now has made any difference on that front. Thank you.
Well, it's just, you know, I'm a relative newcomer to the area, but a lifelong resident of Manhattan and worked with the Times Square Business Improvement District. I know, I mean, a basic fact about urban life is that where there is life, there is more safety. There can be, before, when the old Julie's was closed, there were people loitering on the benches, there could be people sleeping there, smoking marijuana. I mean, just, you know, right, the kids on, it's just, you know, Julie, if there are eyes on the street, then it's a safer place. This is it's sort of generally known, and it's certainly my experience. It used to be a very sad, dark place to walk through every day on the way around the corner to Hippodrome Mews, and it is very welcoming now that there are the lights, there are the people, and you know that if there's anyone who had an idea that they wanted to be making trouble at Clarendon Cross, there are people there who can be responding. So an occupied space is safer than an empty space.
If I could assist, there is also the representation from Councillor Pettit at page 56, which deals with the reduction of crime and disorder in her view.
Thank you. Any more questions? Mr. Melvin?
Thank you. Andrew Melvin. Ms. Rifkin, you said that Little Julie's will make the area safer. And I think you also said that in your written submission. I haven't got it in front of me. What is not clear to me, and so you've now majored on that, you said that in your written submission, I think, and you just said it now, that Little Julie's will make the area safer. But you've already said that Julie's makes the area safe. So can you please explain how Little Julie's will make a place that is already safe, safer?
I think we just covered that, didn't we?
No, we didn't. I think sorry, forgive me. With respect, I don't think we did. Sorry, that was...
I'll ask our legal advisor. Is it okay to bring in the question?
That's fine. You can ask your question. That's
Thank
fine.
you. I think the issue of safety has just been covered up to a point, but I don't think it's been explained why. I accept that Julie's may make the place safer now that it's open than when it was closed, but I do not understand how it can be that Little Julie's makes the place safer than it now is, given that Julie's is there. And in fact, Julie's, I think, is accepted, has later opening hours than Little Julie's is being proposed. So I just cannot see how Little Julie's will make the place safer than it is.
Could you put that in the form of a question, Mr. Melvin?
Could you please explain how Little Julie's will make the area safer than it currently is?
In my submission, I wrote a general submission of support based on my experience with the team. I was asked to clarify by the committee. I was reminded that there's certain criteria that you look at, and I was asked to reframe my letter of support in terms of what the committee, how you make your decision. So, will Little Julie's increase to public disorder? I said, no, I don't think so, because I think they've proven that they're responsible and it's very small and it's not a bar, right? will it detract from public safety? Okay, so if you want to measure if the area is now 98% safe and it's going to be 99% safe, that's all good. I was just saying it's not going to detract from public safety. More eyes on the street are generally a good thing in any city, people who know what's going on. And, you know, and then I responded, so it's public order, public safety, and public nuisance, right? So that's the eyes on the street. I just think they're responsible members of the community. It enhances the neighborhood. It's a place to get some food and beverage, and it livens, you know, it's, right. So I don't think the decision being made here is about whether we move from X level of safety to, you know, 99.9% level of safety. But I think having it there, if it's winter and people are inside the restaurant, but there's the cafe and people are near the front door, then that is more eyes on the street. You know, there's circumstances where that can make a difference.
So you're saying that Little Julie's will increase safety in the area because everybody in the restaurant on a cold night will be inside, but there are people who might be outside.
Mr. Melvin, I think you're beginning to cross-examine our legal advisor.
Okay.
That. So thank you for
Okay.
asking the question.
Okay. Okay.
Am I able to respond at all to that, which may be helpful, Chair?
Yes, I think that would be helpful.
Thank you. Just in response to, there is the email from Councillor Pettit in her opinion that sets out how crime has been reduced since Julie's has opened. Obviously, if Little Julie's is opened, it has different opening hours through there. It is a morning trade, so there are people that will also staff that will be there. There will be CCTV additional in the area. There will be lighting as well and activity within that area that would assist in identifying any crimes, etc., and deterring any crimes, etc. The staff are trained in this. The owners of the premises have a good relationship with the beat officers that walk around the community as well, and there's been no complaints. So it is a matter of a presence rather than an empty building that is not operating through there. There are benefits, we would say, to Little Julie's opening and operating.
Thank you very much. We'll now, before the objectors present, we'll take a 5-minute comfort break. We don't have to go to the room, do we? Okay.
May we please stand for the committee?
Thank you. I don't think everyone's back yet. Yeah, I'm waiting for, and I think one of yours is gone still, yeah. Okay.
Raspberry. Thank you.
Mr. Kenworthy, we're waiting for you.
And this one coming as well, Mr. Hammond.
Yep. And Mr. Hammond. How many of you are going to speak of the objectors? You all are, okay? We just ask that you don't repeat the same points, please. Okay? It's unnecessary. Thank you. Okay, who's speaking first for the objectors? Mr. Melvin?
Hello. Thank you. I've two separate points to make. First, there is the issue of public nuisance and the promotion of the licensing objectives. A grant of the proposed license is bound to lead to some noise and disturbance, whether directly from the premises, from people coming and going, from people hanging about outside, all potentially until 11:30, there's bound to be some nuisance. And I'm suggesting that this would actually be a public nuisance. In the Hope and Glory case of 2011, it was found that the pub was creating a public nuisance, and there the number of people who objected was probably about the same as the number of people who are objecting here. And also in that case, given that there was a public nuisance, that there were some people who liked the pub, who were happy with it, was not relevant. Now, it might be argued that the nuisance would be so slight as not to constitute a public nuisance as such. But please bear in mind the relevance of the Norland Neighbourhood Plan, and as it says in the introduction to it, the area is a place for families, a place where people come to live and stay. People know each other, greet each other, and pass the time of day. This is the neighborhood as it is. And then, having established that point, there's Sturgis and Bridgman of 1879. And there the court ruled, and I'm now citing, whether anything is a nuisance or not is a question to be determined not merely by an abstract consideration of the thing itself, but in reference to its circumstances. What would be a nuisance in Belgrave Square would not necessarily be so in Bermondsey. Well, this is not Belgrave Square, but it is Portland Road in the Norland neighborhood. And no doubt what is being proposed would not cause a nuisance in Notting Hill Gate or Leicester Square, but it would cause one in Portland Road. You could argue that even if the proposed license would give rise to a public nuisance, it would be worth it for the benefit it would bring. But the proposed license would provide, I suggest, no great benefit to the people living here, over and above the benefit of a cafe deli, either with a limited license or with none at all. And I think some people might be more relaxed about something like that. And this point does seem to be accepted by the council. Yesterday's suggestion by the council's legal officer that there be an annual meeting between the proposed license holder and local residents is consistent with a bar that does not serve the community, but outsiders. So, in summary, granting the proposed license would create a public nuisance and there would be no benefit to the community, so to grant it would be contrary to the third licensing objective. And the other point I want to make is that there is an inconsistency between the license applied for and the planning status of the premises. The problem here is that Mr. Glatz's advice is very general and there's not much to go on. So I've had to guess what his thinking is. But I've been helped also by advice from Mr. Glatz's colleague, Neville Palmer of the Planning Department. And I'm not entirely sure that they would agree. But the advice from Mr. Glatz seems to be there is no change of use. So presumably we're in use class E and merely moving from EA, display or retail sale of goods other than hot food, to EB, sale of food and drink for consumption mostly on the premises. And that EB equates to the old A3 restaurants and cafes. But everything in the license sought for is for a bar. Proposed conditions. Alcohol shall only be sold for consumption on the premises by customers seated at tables or counters. And if they can get away with it, alcohol consumed outside the premises building shall only be consumed by patrons seated at tables. And patrons permitted to temporarily leave and then re-enter the premises, e.g. to smoke, shall not be permitted to take drinks or glass containers with them. These are for bars. The last condition, for example, can also be found in the license, which applies to Archer Street, the big bar at Notting Hill Gate. And the suggestions made yesterday by the council's legal officer actually make this clearer by suggesting that the condition about temporarily leaving and re-entering the premises be amended to limit the number of people standing outside. He's accepting that there will indeed be groups of people standing outside, just as you get with bars. And the suggestion of a yearly meeting is appropriate to a bar that is not used by locals. And again, there's a similar wording for the Archer Street in Notting Hill Gate. Now, by contrast, the little cafe in the center of Holland Park has substantial food and non-intoxicating beverages, including drinking water, should be available in all parts of the premises. Now, that's not a bar. And I think that if the proposed use of the premises really were use class EB, sale of food and drink for consumption on the premises, there would be a condition such as alcoholic beverages shall be sold only to customers seated at tables and only when taking a table meal. But there isn't one. What is being proposed is either, and I'm sort of quoting from the planning regulations, a public house, wine bar, or drinking establishment, or a drinking establishment with expanded food provision. And that is not the current use class EB, it's sui generis. I don't think there's any doubt that the current use class is E, and that would permit a restaurant and cafe. So, if the proposed business is a restaurant or cafe, then the license applied for is the wrong one. If the proposed business is a bar or hybrid restaurant and bar, then the license may be right, but the current planning status is wrong. If so, I think this is inconsistent with the borough's licensing policy and possibly with government guidance. But in any case, there'll have to be a planning application. And I'm suggesting that at the very least, the licensing subcommittee should be aware of this, and that's why I'm raising it now.
Sorry, can I just interject here? Obviously, planning is a separate matter, and
Sorry, who? Yes.
yes, it is. It's dealt with separately under a separate regime. So if they are in contravention of any planning rules, then obviously that will be dealt with by the planning department. But I do take on board that you would, ideally you'd like it synchronised. I get that.
I entirely accept that, and I accept that this is not a planning forum, but I do feel the licensing committee ought to know that this is the position.
Thank you. I mean, it's fine. We're happy to hear what you've got to say, but I just wanted to make that clear. Yep. And also, in relation to the draft conditions, you said the residents' meeting conditions. That's like a standard one that we put on most licences. I'm the legal officer. I drafted the conditions based upon what they've offered in their operating schedule. Obviously, the draft conditions are just for discussion only. It doesn't mean that the councillors are going to grant. It doesn't mean the councillors are going to refuse. It just means it's just out there so that everybody knows what we can chat about in the draft condition session. So don't think that just because that condition's on, it's indicative of a bar. It's just a general condition I put on. So
do you have that with restaurants?
Yes, we have it with restaurants, we have it at bars. If there's any concerns, I mean, obviously we can discuss this in the draft condition session. If there's any concerns, it's just a way for the community to engage with the operator and discuss any concerns. It's just another way of resolving any potential issues.
So most restaurants have that condition?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
I take the point.
Yeah. And also, if there's any other conditions that I haven't suggested and that you think are relevant, please feel free to bring it up in the draft conditions session so we can all discuss it. And then after the hearing, the councillors will go away and they will discuss the whole matter and they will decide A, whether to grant, and B, if they are minded to grant, what conditions are appropriate and proportionate. But it's just like a massive chat. So I just wanted to put your mind at rest on that, if that's okay. Right, back to you, Chair.
Who would like to speak next? Mrs. Hammond?
I'm glad you're describing it as a massive chat, because I'm a bit nervous, so sorry. I just wanted to make 2 points, I think.
Could you speak up, please?
First of all, the supporters have been at pains to point out that the owners are an entity to be trusted, whereas in actual fact, since they've been in operation, they seem to have consistently disregarded their licensing conditions, and I think the people here are going to expand on that. And they've been misleading in terms of the impression they've given in terms of a cafe deli. We strongly contest that it is actually the bar offering that's most important. As the owner has said, that's the only bit that's going to make the money, the selling of alcohol. The opening times have been inconsistent in all of their communication. The fact that tables and chairs be pitched outside, there's absolutely no room on the pavement. You can't get a buggy past. They were given planning permission recently, specifically saying not even plants could go outside, and yet immediately they put a huge blackboard blocking the pavement.
Sorry, which
outside.
premises are you talking about?
I'm talking about Little Julie's, which has been opened, etc. So I would take everything that's said with a pinch of salt in terms of their offering. But what I would really like to say that in reality, no matter who the manager is and which business it is, I think it's impossible for this particular building to be run with any evening offering without creating a public nuisance. I'm not sure if any of you has had a chance to visit the site. Yeah. So you know that it's on a corner with huge windows and on a slight slope. So it's a very elevated, exposed building. And any activity there creates noise with very little room. We have had Julie's, as a successful business, running their outdoor seating, and they have consistently through the summer put seating beyond their licensable area. Notwithstanding that, the noise, for some acoustic effect, ricochets and is funneled down the northern part of Portland Road, and it's really, really intrusive So we already have this very active business going on. It's a residential area. It's not a part of Manhattan or wherever the lady has come from. It's a very, very quiet neighborhood. And to have an expansion of any evening business will really affect us, as Julie's outdoor business is already doing. So I think that it's disingenuous for Julie's to say it's an independent, different offering. I can imagine what is inevitably going to happen is that Julie's the restaurant will funnel people through to this little Julie's place. Wait here, have a drink, and then we can serve you. Or you finish dinner here, go across the road, have another drink. Or it's a beautiful evening, there's this lovely public square. Why don't we sell you a bottle of wine? You can take it outside, bring your own glasses, and have a drink in this square. It would be lovely for all those people visiting, but it's going to create a huge amount of noise, and it really affects us in our houses, particularly on the north end of Portland Road. This is irrespective of all the logistics, the comings and goings, the deliveries, the collections. They're suggesting these 19 people are coming and going at different times. Therefore, it could quite easily be more than 19 people coming and going through the evening. Julie's mainly has taxis, etc., from the south side of Portland Road. The north side in Clarendon Cross is not very easy in terms of access for cars. Where are these taxis going to wait? There's not, if you look at the actual people coming to Julie's, there's very few residents actually in there. So I think that there will be a lot of people visiting this place. I think it will act as an overflow for Julie's restaurant and their business. So I think whoever would try to run this, an off-license is completely inappropriate, and evening business is completely inappropriate, given the geographical situation and how close it is, and the effect and the acoustics of all this noise coming through to the north end of Portland Road in particular. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mrs. Ramlogan, would you like to speak now? Or Mr. Hammond?
First, I want to say that I feel a bit sad to be in this position. I've lived in the area on that street for 35 years, and spent quite a lot of time in the old Julie's. Had various events there, and to some extent, I could see this coming when Kensington Chelsea Council allowed Julie's to be cut in half. And their main consideration for doing this is that it was going to be a viable business going forward. So we all thought it wasn't. Plenty of us wrote in and said we value the restaurant in its current size, and think that it should be left alone because it is a facility, even though it's a for-profit facility. It's not a community thing as such. But having said that, whilst I can understand, therefore, the natural inclination to expand, and there's a very nice thing to expand into, but unfortunately, it's our expense. The place is quiet. It's tranquil. The estate agent on Portland Road laughed at me. I've known him for, again, 30 years, and he said, "How are you getting on with Julie's?" And I said, "God, a bit noisy." He goes, "I know. It was my main marketing point for your end of the road. It was peace and quiet. I can't even say that anymore." I mean, that's just the general perception out there. And whilst it might be repeatedly said that it's not a bar, it's not a bar, it's not a bar, we won't allow off sales to be drunk in the square, I'm afraid that we don't believe you, because during one of the few times, it's not once, it's not twice, there was a party of say 40 to 50 people on the Clarendon Square. I thought, well, instead of phoning the council again, I will try and work with them. I will try and approach them or whatever. Approach Julie's restaurant. And I went to talk to them, and the manager said, "It's our anniversary, what'd you do?" Because I said, "Well, but you don't have a license for this. You haven't got an extension. You haven't got anything. It's just, I said, "It's really noisy. I mean, my boys have stopped their homework to do it. Wondering what on earth's going on. Is there a street party? Can they join in?" I said, "Well, it's not. No, it's some people having a drink." So there already is drinking in the square, organised by Julie's en masse. And you're saying that definitely there will be nobody taking off sales from this bar, which it is, as discussed, to drink in the square. I think they will. And of course, I agree with my wife that it's a natural place for people to be funneled to before and after the main Julie's offering. But I'd also like to add to the Norland local neighbourhood plan quotation from Andrew, in that this neighbourhood plan was worked on quite hard by people on our part of the street. There's been various planning decisions that have been made that have overridden London policies and even national policies because of the preference in that area to further some architectural quirks for family life. And that's the gist of that plan. The only reason I mention that, I know it's not a planning situation, but family life is at the heart of that neighbourhood plan, and it's also people take notice of it even now, even though there are various levels of things that have superseded it. But the quote is that the neighbourhood plan's policy is to safeguard the tranquility and to reduce traffic noise and reduce the disruption through residential areas. I mean, there's no way on earth you can open a bar in a residential area and maintain those principles, which are important to the neighbourhood plan, and they're important to us. We are people, we're not people popping in for a sausage roll. We're people trying to raise a family. You know, we have children who go to bed at 9 o'clock, and the increased noise from Julie's is dramatic already, really dramatic. I've never complained about a single licensed establishment in the whole time I've lived in London, so 35 years, but I can't believe the amount of noise that already emanates from Julie's, and there's no way that this will be less noise. It'll be more, due to as other people have more eloquently said, the unsuitability of that particular site. They have announced exactly what they intend to do, and it's portrayed as mitigation for our concerns, but it's actually a statement of quite aggressive facility. The doors will be open till 9 o'clock. They might be shut after that. People will be smoking outside. Hopefully there'll be tables on that minuscule pavement. You know, I mean, all of those things, that's what they've already announced they will do. And as I said, I'm afraid because of the way they behaved at the old Julie's site, I don't believe them when they announce what they say they won't do. That's it, really.
It's very helpful. Mrs. Ramlogan, would you like to speak now? Oh, sorry.
Can you turn your one off, Richard? This mic.
Hi, sorry, my mic's not. Okay, so I think this will be quite brief because, you know, everyone else has touched upon most of the key points, but I think just a few things to note. So firstly, I don't know how many of the supporting applications or the supporters on the other side live on the northern side of Portland Road. So we as a group, and I think the 12 objections that came in, are all residents of the northern side of Julie's. So I think this is where we primarily feel the impact of what's already happening at Julie's. You know, I personally, and I'm sure everyone else here today, we want to see local businesses prosper. We support local businesses. And, you know, I think the idea of a coffee shop, a deli, none of us have any issues with that. We want Julie's to succeed. We want the business to succeed. There's nothing, I think we are genuinely concerned about the impact this is going to have on our families, on our, you know, just our sleep at night. Because like Richard was saying, a lot of us did lose sleep over the summer, and there were several objections, and I'm not sure why. I think in one of the documents that was noted that there'd been no objections to noise. There have been several objections, you know, and there have been several complaints, but I think at the heart of all of this is the loss of trust, and I think there have been several assertions since March this year about the nature of this business. and the model in which it's going to operate, and they have changed, and I can make reference to some of those. So, for example, on the 18th of March, there was an email saying that Little Julie's will operate as a cafe and bakery during the day. In the evenings, we plan to serve charcuterie and wine, which is why we've applied for a license. The request for an 11 p.m. license is primarily for occasional private events, which will accommodate a maximum of 12 to 14 people and will not take place daily. Then, there was another email. In the proposed license, they proposed that the sale of alcohol should continue until 11 and that doors should close at 11:30. This would be every day except on occasions when it would be later. Then there was another point. In the planning application for exterior works, they say they will close at midnight. Then another one. In their supplementary evidence on the 21st of September, they say closing time is 11 p.m. daily with last food orders by 10:30 p.m. So I think there's been a lot of contradictory statements made, none of which assure us as residents. And I think, like I mentioned before, at the heart of this is a lack of trust about what will evolve and moving forward, and we all at the end of the day just want to live peacefully and we want our families to be raised peacefully. I think that's pretty much... Yeah, I think, again, our main concerns revolve around, you know, the sale of alcohol, the off-licensing of alcohol, and, you know, the gathering of groups around this entity. General evening activity, and what may arise from the doors being open from that establishment.
I would say I'd like to encourage you to participate in the conditions session. Let's see what we can do with that. I hear what you're saying. Now, does the committee have any questions? Yes, Councillor Rossi?
So I just have one question to all the objectors. Would shorter licensing hours help? I mean, how would you feel if a license was passed, but the hours did not go so late? Good question.
Define how late would that be? I mean, you know.
So
we'll discuss that at the conditions.
Can discuss it.
Please give us a minute to just agree what we, if we can.
Okay.
Good question.
Since the gentleman...
It's not your turn.
Well, as mentioned, our two main concerns that there's evening activity of any sort. We really don't support any activity in Little Julie's after, say, 6 o'clock. It's always been a shop, and there's never been any activity after shop hours. So any activity, whether there was sales of alcohol or not, would still engender extra people coming and going. And socialising with all the noise attached with that. In terms of alcohol, we'd also have really big concerns about it being an off-licence, because it's such a lovely square. Who wouldn't want to buy a glass of wine and go and sit on the bench? Julie's have said we'll only sell alcohol with it sealed, and we'll try and manage people. But as soon as it's sold, then of course it can be opened, and they haven't got any right really to move people on from the square. So maybe sales of alcohol during the day with food inside, okay, but in terms of an off license, at any time we'd be really, really uneasy because of what will happen during the summer. Any activity, as I say, after shop hours of maybe 6 o'clock, it's really going to cause a public nuisance, we feel.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Wade? Okay. Does our legal officer have any questions?
Can you just, when you say north of Portland Road, so I'm looking at the map on page 89. I'm just conscious that everybody else won't be able to see. Are you I can see all the red dots where presumably the objectors are on page 89. Are you talking about that section there of the road where Big Julie's is? Is that what you mean by north of Portland Road?
I don't have... So beyond the pedestrianised square, the public square, where Julie's restaurant is situated, Portland Road continues up to the north. So if I've got it highlighted...
Are you including that pedestrianised bit as part of north of Portland Road, or are you just talking about above that?
We all live above that, but obviously there are houses and flats all around the public square. I don't live on that particular bit, but I do know that I don't live on the square, I live on the northern part. I live 5 doors.
Is it able to put it on the screen? On the big screen? We'll put it on the big screen and maybe you can just explain
we're talking about the northern part of Portland Road. That's what we meant by that.
So you mean above Little Julie's?
When we said north of Portland Road, we meant the northern part of Portland Road.
Okay, fine. That's what I just wanted to be clear that...
All the houses to the north of 102 have a huge impact from anyone speaking outside. Any noise, whether it's fireworks or anything, just seems to ricochet off the houses. The acoustics funnel it all the way down that street, and it's very, very intrusive.
Yeah, there aren't any trees in that part, and no outside space at the back either. So.
Yeah. Okay. So the fact that, as I said, the building is high up and exposed with all these glass windows, it really is exposed. 19 people in a glass box can make a lot of noise, whether or not the doors are shut.
Especially with background music with the doors open.
Thank you. I haven't got any other questions. Thank you.
Does the applicant have any questions?
I don't have any questions as such. I do have some replies that might assist, may not. I can deal with them during conditions when we go through them, if that's easier.
Yeah, we'll deal with it with the conditions. Mrs. Rifkin, do you have any questions?
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify, since some assertions were made. I appreciate the quiet and calm of the neighborhood and the neighborliness of the neighborhood. So I just didn't appreciate the suggestion that I expect Clarendon Cross to be similar to Manhattan in any way.
Would you like to ask a question?
So I'm confused. I mean, I understand what the people making objections are saying about their experience. I'm responding to, I know that there are people who are supporters who live a few doors away from Little Julie's who've had no complaints at all, who also submitted letters about the noise.
I need you to put that in the form of a question, please, Mrs. Rifkin.
I guess I just wanted to respond to the suggestion that I did not appreciate the quiet of the neighborhood, or that I was speaking for many, so that's...
Okay, it's not really a question, but we get the point. Thank you. Okay, we will now ask our legal advisor to deal with any questions she may have, and then she will lead on the draft conditions session. The list of potential conditions has been circulated to all of you and prior to the hearing. Please, could you confirm your attendance? Thank you.
I'm here. Right, okay, just bear with me 1 second, please. Grab this. Right, so everybody has seen the draft conditions that were circulated yesterday afternoon. The words in red are just where I've made suggested amendments, and then towards the end I've suggested 3 additional conditions based on what I perceived as being the issues that have arisen. But of course, if there's any other conditions which you think are appropriate, please pipe up. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to read through the conditions. If you want to comment on anything, please feel free to do so. I think before we start going through the conditions, let's just talk provisionally about hours. I think we need to kind of focus. I think the off sale seemed to be a big thing for you as well, and the outside area. So the applicant has asked for on and off sales from 8 in the morning to 11 p.m. at night with half an hour to drink up and close at 11:30. So I think what I wanted to ask in the first place, in relation to off sales, obviously the off sales are going to be for if you get a pavement licence to drink on the outside areas. That's if they get a pavement licence. Which is a separate, obviously, regime. If they don't get a pavement licence, then they're not going to be able to drink outside. So, and also presumably for takeaways in sealed. What about restricting times for off sales, or I just want your thoughts on off sales that can allay the objectors' concerns about taking a bottle of wine and then opening up in the square. Have you got any thoughts on that? I think I just wanted to preface with that, and then it might ease the rest of the conditions.
Absolutely. So off sales, as we've heard, is two parts. So one is pavement licence, tables and chairs, if that's granted. If that's granted in this area, it would generally be till 10 p.m, which is why we're happy to limit it to 10 p.m. Julie's, for the record, has just been renewed their pavement licence to deal with that till 10 p.m.
Yeah, told 10 p.m, but we do go inside at 9:40.
I didn't hear that.
They go inside at 9:40, but they've got their pavement licence through to 10 p.m. So
that's Big Julie's you're talking about.
That is for Julie's, but we're very happy to limit your additional wording in terms of the tables and chairs for the off sales to 10 p.m. We're not going to get later than that. We're not going to need that. In terms of sealed containers, it is not a large part, but it is an important part of what this business is. There's been so much discussion, this is a bar, planning permission. We are a deli cafe, and I think you've heard from the food that's being offered, being prepared, takeaway. I've spoken to a resident behind that lives 2 doors away, and he goes in at various stages of the day and takes food away and takes it home to cook, bread, etc. So it is very much that offering to deal with it. And if you want a bottle of wine that you've had inside, or you want to go home, etc., we want to be able to offer it. It's an important part of what our business is. It's a small part, but an important part.
Until 11 p.m.
We are happy to limit the hours through to 10 p.m. as well, as a concession to deal with that. We don't anticipate every person coming in, buying a bottle, etc., and leaving through there, but it is an important offering. You can buy it at a supermarket, local supermarket away, etc. It will be managed. You can see from the residents sitting behind me that they are local people that live around the area that are supporting this business. One has a little baby with her, so they're not going the mindset to go and cause noise and nuisance, etc., in the local area around here. They're responsible people that work in the area, etc., and that is what Little Julie's is targeted towards the community. So hopefully with that management, it will be bagged up, it will be sealed container through there. Instructions can be given. Obviously there's various orders around in terms of public consumption, etc., in public areas, which will need to be adhered to as well. But we don't envisage people going and having a party in the square, and if that's the case, then they will have mechanisms in place where they won't be allowed back in to purchase alcohol, those particular people. Because
I'm just thinking out loud, if you get a pavement licence, normally the tables and chairs have to be in by 10.
Correct.
And normally you'd have like 30 minutes drinking up time. So that would bring it down to 9:30. What are your thoughts on 9:30 for both parts of off sales? Just to factor that in, because you don't really, you don't want people artificially buying a bottle of wine at 1 minute to 10 and then having to leave the area. That won't happen.
It doesn't mean people can't consume and finish up because they've got to move their tables and chairs inside.
Yes, I've just explained that it's in relation to the sale of alcohol for the off sales in terms of that, so there would be a drinking up time, as you mentioned, with the usual wording, and that could be agreed in terms of the tables and chairs, because that would be operating in any event. We've heard that Julie's tables and chairs are coming in at 9:40 anyway to meet the deadline.
So 9:30 to stop selling alcohol for the tables and chairs. Then there's usually the half an hour drinking up to get in.
Correct.
What about for the takeaways? If people
want... we could do 9:30
and
as
9:30
well.
for that.
We could do that.
Right. Can I just have your comments on that, please?
We seem to be sort of... You said you didn't want to discuss the pavement licence, and it seems to be sort of segue into that. But isn't the whole subject of the pavement licence slightly absurd? It's a tiny little pavement on a slope. I mean, mean, but if you,
I
I
can't
understand you don't want.
prejudge.
I don't understand. You don't want to be judged, but you are discussing the terms of it. Effectively.
Can I just interject? I can't prejudge, nor can the committee, whether or not they'll get a pavement licence. It doesn't fall within the remit of the licensing committee.
Sure.
It's dealt with by someone separate, so we cannot prejudge. If it is a narrow pavement, if it doesn't fit the criteria, they're not going to get a tables and chairs licence. I think one of you referenced the fact that in relation to the planning commission, they weren't allowed planters outside, so we just have to discuss it in the round, because that's what they're asking for. Whether they get it or not is another question, but it needs to be discussed. If the committee are minded, obviously this is all very kind of if the committee are minded to grant this application, we're just talking about the off-sales part. We can discuss on-sales hours in a second, but I think off-sales are a biggie for you. What are your thoughts on 9:30? You know, just stopping alcohol outside if they get a pavement licence and coming in at 10 and selling bottles of wine at 9:30. I just want your thoughts.
I can't have a conversation that assumes that a pavement licence exists, because, I mean, it's nothing. I mean, Julie's got huge, great space outside. So we're arguing about 20 centimetre strips, you know, which is maybe puerile, but it does make a big difference, actually. But outside Little Julie's, if there's any sense in the world, there'd be absolutely no way on earth they could get a pavement licence. It's less than a table wide.
But if they don't get a
so
pavement
what I'm saying is I
licence,
can't have a conversation where you say, is it okay to serve at 9:30? I don't understand it.
but we need to preempt that, because obviously we can't put into this condition there shall be no pavement licence, because it's not within our or the committee's power to do that. So I've worded a condition, made it conditional upon them getting a pavement licence. So if they, that's all we can do.
Yeah, fair enough. It's like...
What's the... So, having understood that, what's your suggestion or question to us, please?
So if they get a pavement licence, the two parts. If they get a pavement licence and they're saying that they'll stop selling alcohol at 9:30 and then they have 30 minutes to drink up, because the normal pavement licences require the tables and chairs to either be bought in or rendered unusable by 10 p.m. And the second part is they've also said that they'd be happy for 9:30 to stop off sales, like for the takeaways of sealed bottles of wine. What are your thoughts on that, on the 9:30, if the committee are minded to grant?
I think we'd have to reiterate the things we were discussing earlier, that we're really, really concerned about any evening activity because it's an unavoidable public nuisance.
Okay. But obviously, if the committee do grant this application, it would just be helpful to have your without prejudice thoughts just on that time. But obviously, if you don't want to make any comment, fine, I'd take on board that.
I don't know what that means technically, without prejudice, sorry.
Well, obviously, you're saying you don't want the licence to go ahead, and you're asking us, presumably, to either cut the hours or to refuse the licence. And obviously, we're discussing 9:30, and you're basically saying to me you think it's too late anyway.
Yes.
So I'm just saying, if the committee were minded to grant, it would just be helpful to shape the discussions, what your thoughts are on that time.
Well, as mentioned, okay.
Thank you. I think our point, and forgive me if I just slightly, if I widen it, widen where you are, is that most of this is irrelevant. We don't want a license. That is our starting point.
I understand that.
As long as that's there, that's for the record. We don't want a license of any kind. So,
but you know that they can operate without a license, without selling alcohol, and they can stay until 11 o'clock. So
we're happy for, you know, coffee and stuff, but we don't want a license. That's the first point.
Yep.
And I suppose we are open to having a discussion without prejudice to that point. Our starting point is we don't want that to be a license.
I've made a note.
But if that's not the view that the subcommittee is going to take, then I suppose we have to talk about what would be least unacceptable
Just in a common sense way, 9 is better than 11, and 7 is better than 9, and 5 is better than 7. I mean, you know, that's kind of obvious, right? I mean, I don't have more to add than that. I mean, what I desire and what I think is reasonable, and actually is a reasonable decision, is not to allow a licence on that particular site. I mean, there's even the place opposite, you know, that's now a coffee shop would have been a better choice. Place opposite main Julie's, but that particular site we think is unsuitable as we've written in.
I think
and discussed.
I get
So in terms of what we prefer, well, on a sliding scale from 11 p.m. to 0, it gets better as you get towards 0. I mean that's kind of obvious, right? I mean, you know.
Okay.
And it is, of course, your decision, not mine. So I can't really.
Well, it's obviously the committee decision, not my decision.
But your decision,
okay.
not mine.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Right. Okay. So that's the off sales times, and obviously let's just, while we're here, just discuss on sales times. Is there any movement on that at all, or are you wanting 11?
We do want 11 p.m. We can operate to 11 p.m. in any event, as you've said. To grant 11 p.m. would bring it within the Licensing Act in terms of granting the application that we're seeking, in terms of enforcement procedures as well. And just on the off sales, Julie's, I know this is not about Julie's, I understand. That has off sales. That can apply for off sales without restriction dealing with that, other than a converted licence. Do they allow their patrons to buy bottles of wine and go and sit in the square? No, they do not. So that's not the case that will be replicated all of a sudden at Little Julie's. They have a huge amount of respect for the neighbourhood. In terms of the 11 p.m. that's being sought, and that is still being sought, we do think in the neighbourhood that's a reasonable application being made in terms of what it is. There is a lot of support for this application from the local residents and from the local councillor, ward councillor as well. We think that we can manage it through the conditions. There's been complaints that the proposed conditions, because we've offered that there'll be no noise nuisance, etc., which I'm sure we'll come to, means that we anticipate causing a noise nuisance. No, we do not dealing with that. These are protections for the residents that we've sought as part of our operating schedule that we're required to put together. So it is a protection mechanism for the local residents so that there is enforcement procedures in place if need be. And of course there's the review of the licence as well. But 11 o'clock can be managed in terms of the size of this premises. We've heard from Ms Rivkin in terms of coming home at various different times of the night, etc., wanting to pop in for a meal, for a glass of wine even. It doesn't mean there's going to be noise nuisance when she leaves. She lives in the local area, immediately in the local area. So do the residents sitting behind me. They respect the local community through there. And what we're asking for is some flexibility in terms of how we can operate the business in accordance with being a cafe and a deli. People do take things home. People do want a glass of wine, a bottle of wine when they leave, etc. It does not mean that they will be permitted to drink it in the square, etc. So we do seek the 11 p.m. and we do think there's enough conditions on the licence that we will be able to manage that and promote the licensing objectives.
Thank you. Right. I'm now going to move on to the actual conditions now. As I said before, this is without prejudice. It just forms part of every single licensing hearing. It's something that we just do so that everybody can have a say if the committee minded to grant. Right. Number 1 is a standard type condition. I don't have any comments on it. If you've got any comments on any of the conditions, please pipe up, because I'm just going to run through them otherwise.
I think in terms of music, the applicant suggested that whilst they wouldn't be playing any loud music, there might be background music.
That's a non-licensable activity anyway. They can do that regardless. Okay. And also under the deregulated provisions between the hours of 8 a.m. and 11 p.m, they can do various things like play recorded music and amplified music. I can't remember all the conditions anyway, but they can do certain things anyway which aren't licensable. So, yeah, that's just like a standard type condition that we put on.
Okay, so thank you.
Number 2, no noise or vibration. That's another standard type condition that's put on. Number 3, no smells generated from cooking processes. Number 4, non-intoxicating beverages, including drinking water, to be available throughout the permitted hours. That's a standard condition, yes?
Thank you. Thank you. Doesn't go far enough, I suggest.
What do you suggest?
I suggest, well, what I suggested earlier, that alcohol only be served with food.
I think that can be addressed in condition, where is it?
It's not?
Hang on, just bear with me. There is a condition about waiter-waitress service. I can't find it. Oh, I'll put number 20, I'll put a note about with food in that bit there, and we can discuss that then. But I know what your point is on that already.
Absolutely. In relation to condition 4, though, going back to that, my client would be very happy for it to read, food and non-intoxicating beverages shall be available to patrons throughout the permitted hours, to put it in there.
You're a deli anyway. So
exactly. Food is there. Food is being offered.
Okay, so they can add that wording into number 4.
That's not what I'm suggesting. I'm suggesting
you want it tied with alcohol.
I want, if alcohol is served, it should be served with food.
Okay, we'll discuss that when we come to number 20. I made a point of that.
Thank you.
Okay, but we'll add in the words food as well to number 4. Number 5, notices to be displayed at exits asking public to respect the needs of local residents. That's a condition you'd normally see. Number 6, smokers asked to respect patrons in the area. That's standard. Number 7, the doors of the premises shall be kept closed when the premises are trading, except for immediate access and egress from 9 p.m. until it closes to the public. That's what's been offered. Do you have any comments on that one, number 7?
Why do we have to have a time clause in it at all?
Well,
why can't it just stop after egress?
Thinking out loud, I mean, obviously, they unless we put in a condition, they can have the doors open all the time. And obviously, as they've offered 9 p.m, because obviously that will contain any sound within. And obviously, if there is any background music which could disrupt the residents, it will contain it within the premises. That's what they've offered 9 p.m.
Yeah, I mean, 6 p.m. would seem more reasonable.
6 p.m.
As I say, it's an area of family houses full of children. It's, you know, a bar, which is what it is, because you don't even know what sort of food you're going to serve yet, with its doors open, playing music and people drinking with no food. It's so out of character.
Okay, I'll
for
ask
that area.
the applicant for their comments, but obviously.
But you know, the applicant's legal representative has made long speeches about how much support there is for this application.
Understood.
And that they've continuously made these speeches about there's this many people who are obviously personal friends of theirs. There's also a lot of opposition to it. So, you know, we are existing in our family lives in that area. You know, a bar with its doors as a mitigation will shut the doors at 9. I mean, honestly, it's quite hard to swallow that as something that shows respect for the local neighbourhood. I'm doing my maths homework with my little boy. I'm not popping in for a sausage roll on the way back from whatever, you know. It's an entirely different environment to the one that's being portrayed. This community that they talk about, the community is us in our houses with our families, existing in family life as directed by the, preference directed to by the community plan, the local area plan.
Okay, so
I
you're
think
saying
9 o'clock quite late.
Yeah, sorry. So you're saying 6 o'clock. Mr. Melvin, can you turn your mic off because we can only have 2 on at one time? You're saying 6 o'clock. You're saying 9 o'clock. The committee will make a decision on that. I just wanted everybody's thoughts.
Correct. And if I could just comment, the reason why we want 9 o'clock is there are additional conditions. As I said, it's not planning to play music or anything like that other than potentially background music. You've got condition 1 that prevents any nuisance in relation to any music, etc., noise and vibration. But also we are a cafe deli through that. We want to look like we're open in terms of the premises. That's required. That's needed for a business in this day and age. So we think 9 p.m. Is a reasonable time for the doors to be open. They may be closed later if there's inclement weather or something like that, but we would like that opportunity to be able to have the doors open till 9 p.m. and we would say that it's reasonable.
Thank you. Councillor Evans?
Yes, is it possible to add to that condition and say that, I'm thinking out loud, that if the residents are complaining on a specific day that the music's too loud, would you be amenable, using a reasonable criteria, to close the doors?
I think that will probably come out from the residents' meetings.
I agree. I think that would be quite subjective in terms of that, because you might have one resident that says it's too loud. I mean, let's be very clear, it's not a bar operation. Music is not going to be blaring from this premises. I have to say that, I'm sorry, Mr. Hammond, because that's the fact of the matter, is that it is a deli cafe in terms of what the whole business model is and how it's been operating for the last 3 weeks without complaint. No, we've still been operating throughout the premises in terms of the cafe deli for everything on that.
You're assuming they're going to be a bar. It's not a fact, okay?
Nor is it a fact that it's a cafe deli either.
No, so we'll have to see. We will have to see how it's operating. You are able to complain. They are able to have residents' meetings with you. We're going to discuss that. So let's not make assumptions here. Let's base this on fact, okay?
And that nicely
Thank you, Chair. And just in relation, sorry, Lindsay. Just in relation to the residents' meetings, if complaints are received, then they will be addressed at the residents' meetings, and adjustments can be made in that sense through there. I would just like the licence not to be subjective in that sense, but obviously it's up to members.
And that actually ties in with the next condition. So my proposed wording in red, a dedicated telephone number for the DPS or duty manager to be displayed so that it's visible from the public highway and maintained for use by any person who may wish to make a complaint during the operation of the licence, to be provided to the licensing authority, ward councillors and local residents associations, and any changes notified. So there's also to be a telephone number for you to call if there are any issues. Can I have any comments on that condition, please?
No, that's very agreed.
Thank you. Number 9, complaints logged to be kept for 12 months.
I'm sorry, on number 8, is that a telephone number to call a manager of the applicant or to call the council?
No, the applicant.
So we'll be calling them
You can call them directly, yeah.
Well, we can just walk up the road.
You can walk up the road, or you can call them, whatever suits. I mean, it's a standard kind of wording condition. Okay. It would apply to premises that are open at 2 in the morning. So some residents may not want to get out their houses at 2 in the morning. Sure. So, you know, you can ring, you can call, but it needs to be available. So, okay. And this will be in addition to the residents' meeting one as well.
And of course, you can always make complaints. Mr. Freeland, can you explain the complaints procedure?
Certainly, thank you, Chair. So just to make it clear that you can log complaints via our noise and nuisance team. They have an out-of-hours service if officers are unavailable during, if the incidents occur during regular day hours. I'm very happy to share the contact details with you after this hearing.
Thank you. We've used them quite a number of times already to make complaints about Julie's restaurant outside.
Okay.
And that's helpful because if there are any issues, and if, you know, in the unlikely event that a review is called, or any future applications made, any logged complaints will also form part of the committee pack. And obviously it's just additional information if it's been logged, as well as any representations that have been made. So I just thought I'd draw that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Number 10 is a standard condition about drinking up, so that ties in with the closing time. So number 11, so we've already agreed 9:30 for end of, well, the applicants have offered, but obviously for the committee to decide, sorry, I'm just checking my wording. The applicants have offered 9:30 p.m. for end of off sales. So this condition, sales of alcohol for consumption off the premises may only be in sealed containers and shall not be consumed on the premises, and obviously this is subject to the time limit, or subject to any necessary pavement licence, consumed at outside tables and chairs immediately next to the premises by waiter-waitress service. Are you happy with that wording, both sides?
I wonder how it can be enforced once you've sold a bottle of wine and someone's gone outside.
You're talking about the first bit, if somebody buys it and takes it away, rather than sitting outside on the tables and chairs?
Sale of alcohol for consumption off the premises may only be drunk on the tables and when you're sitting down on the tables and chairs. Is that...
Are you worried about the point you made earlier on about someone buying a sealed bottle of wine and then drinking it in the locality? That's what you're talking about now. I mean, I suppose it will be hard. Well, we can only add wording which is appropriate and proportionate and which is enforceable.
Yeah.
And like you said earlier on, they won't have the power to, walk down the road and stop people opening. I agree with that. And it'd be like a conventional off-licence in that sense. You can't... If people buy alcohol and then once they've left the vicinity, they're effectively out of your control. I totally take on board your point. But obviously we can add conditions to... We don't want them taking unsealed bottles of wine out. So they're just saying sealed ones. So they're not taking unsealed bottles of wine. And obviously that would stop at 9:30. And obviously in relation to the second bit, they'd have to get a pavement licence, because if they don't get the pavement licence, then there won't be any drinking of alcohol outside. Yeah. So that's the only points I can really make on that. But I do take on board your point about the wider concerns.
It just emphasises how inappropriate an off-licence is for this place. Okay, thank you.
That wording is agreed, and if I could potentially assist and just say, not that we think this will be happening if people are drinking in the square, the residents would then have a right to review if it's causing issues through there. The licence would be brought back to the committee, and potentially that condition could be removed from the licence in full if it's causing issues. Yeah. We do not anticipate that to be a problem, just trying to assist.
Thank you. Right, number 12 I've amalgamated. Number 13, I've put in our preferred wording for CCTV and signage. Number 15, this is limiting smokers outside. Obviously, smoking isn't a licensable activity, but obviously they will have control of people smoking directly outside their premises. So I've suggested when people go outside to smoke, they can't take drinks or glass containers with them, so alcohol or non-alcohol, because people tend to linger when they've got alcohol in their hands and drinking.
Sorry,
and 5 persons.
Is it possible to limit that? That's nearly a quarter of the potential clientele outside having a cigarette.
Are you talking about the numbers now? What number are you suggesting then?
1, none, 2? 2.
2, okay. What are your thoughts?
We need to provide provision for smokers under various requirements. We're happy for it to be limited to 5 people. If committee wanted, they could go down to 4, but we're not anticipating, a huge bundle of people going out and smoking for what we're operating. Certainly if they're going in to use the deli and take away food, etc., they'd be walking away straight away, so they wouldn't be there. And it's just a matter of managing that, and we're confident we can manage that to not cause disturbance.
I would suggest 4. It's a small premises.
We can agree to that.
Okay.
And would that be at any time or at certain times?
Yeah. Could I just clarify that? Yes, it's that. Well, for the record, we don't agree to 4, and then the other point is, I don't think we agree to the bit in square brackets at the end after.
You want at any one time?
We want it we want a full stop after any one time.
Okay. And can I have they're just taking instructions on that.
So you're saying you don't want smokers
no,
outside?
No, he's saying no more than 4 at
any
one time rather than
hanging
after
around
9
in
PM.
the street.
Yeah.
Right, okay. So we actually agree.
No, because I think the subcommittee's view is no more than 4 people hanging around in the street.
I'm talking about
I think
smokers.
we think perhaps no more than 2 is about right.
We're talking about smokers?
Well, they've suggested 2, and the applicants offered 4.
Yeah.
Mr. Melvin is saying that those 4 persons, there should be no more than 4 at any time, like basically throughout the whole day. And I'm just going to see what Lauren's got to say. You can take your microphone.
Yeah, that's where we are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, thank you. We would offer after 7 p.m, which we think is reasonable in terms of that, and it really comes down to sort of criminal liability with conditions, etc., dealing with that, and we want to be able to enforce it accurately through there. But again, it's up to the committee. We'll leave that to the committee members.
It'll be for the committee to decide that point. Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Melvin, do you understand that? It'd be very difficult to control all the time.
I accept it's difficult, but that is the business they choose to be in.
No, I think just in general, it's not against the law to smoke outside.
I don't really mind if people are smoking outside or not. All I'm saying is that we're trying to limit the number of people hanging around in the street.
Understood.
Okay.
Understood.
I mean, they may just be going out for a private chat.
Right.
Thank you. Right. Moving on to number 16, that's just restricting times for like rubbish and refuse collections. Are you okay with that condition? And the deliveries one, the next one, 17. Sorry, you've got something to say. Which one are you talking about?
Sorry, which one are we on now? 16?
16
yeah,
and 17.
I mean, this just goes against everything that we've...
But this is standard. All right, this is a standard condition.
But that's the point. It's a residential area where people are, very close proximity. We hear everything. So the idea of deliveries at 11 up to 11 p.m. is highly disruptive. I mean, bottles clinking around, trash, like you name it. I mean, this will wake us up.
All right, let me just ask the applicant, what time do your deliveries usually finish at? Yeah, because we might be able to look at restricting the deliveries.
Yeah, we can bring it down to 7 p.m. as well.
So between that's 1900. So deliveries to the premises, like food deliveries to the premises, not to happen other than between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m.
So are we doing 16 or 17?
Yeah, 16. This is 16.
Sorry, but that was number 17, deliveries.
Oh, sorry.
16 is about rubbish and refuse collections. Now, that's usually out of the hands of most people, be it a resident or an operator, because it depends whether they have a private delivery collection or they rely on the council.
But I think that's just the whole point. Some things can't be controlled and fall without, outside of their control. And it's disruptive. It's highly disruptive for a tight, close-knit community like we are.
But just thinking out loud,
Yeah.
if they weren't applying for this licence and they were still a deli, they would still have rubbish and refuse outside, which wouldn't be controlled by condition. So by having this licence, we can put on appropriate conditions. So we need to be realistic as to what times the collections are, because if we start putting unenforceable conditions on, then it won't work out.
If I could assist, just in relation to refuse collection, we're happy to bring from 11 p.m. down to 8 p.m.
8 a.m. you mean?
No, between 2000 and 07.
Oh, right, okay. Are you
There's
doing
a
private ones?
There's a private company that they can dictate
so they have
to
got
deal
some
with that.
control over what time their refuse can be collected, so it
And
won't be
needs to
collected beyond 8 p.m.
And it will match up with Julie's as well, just to assist so that there's only one vehicle, one travel distance for the vehicle.
Okay, and then obviously, what about putting rubbish outside in that case? Can we bring down those times to tie in with the collection? So that would be, okay. So 8 p.m. is the latest time, rather than 11 p.m.
And you won't leave the rubbish outside overnight? Okay.
Right, moving on.
Sorry, just does that then enable them to leave rubbish bags on the pavement?
No.
Because again, there's no room.
So if you look, food waste shall be deposited no more than 30 minutes prior to the agreed refusal collection time. They've said that 8 p.m. is the latest, so they can't put the food out any sooner than 30 minutes before the collection time. So they won't be left out before that or overnight.
And that doesn't occur in terms of Julie's operations, so it will be tied in, so it will be well controlled.
Thank you. Right, number 8.
In that, could we take out the word agreed?
In what number?
In 16. So it's no more than 30 minutes prior to the, well, I think by refusal, there's a typo, you meant refuse, but refuse rather.
Refuse, yeah.
I would just suggest we take out agreed and we just have it The time,
Oh,
the
no.
collection time. Because otherwise, the agreed one, they, you know,
Could change.
the contractors could be late.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. To a degree, yes, but they've said that they've said that because they're using a private contractor, they've agreed 8 p.m. as the latest time to put rubbish out. So I think they do have some element of control over the times. So we can discuss that in the private bit. Right, moving on. Number 19 is a standard challenge 25 and signage condition. Number 19 is standard staff training because alcohol's being served and keeping records. Right, number 20, here's the one that you wanted to talk about. Alcohol shall only be sold for consumption on the premises to customers seated at tables or counters by waiter-waitress service. I think they're happy with that, with waiter-waitress service, with that wording in. But you want food tied in as well. So...
Yeah, I mean, the starting point that... look, I mean, I'm not an expert in licensing law, but I did mention the cafe in Holland Park. Substantial food and non-intoxicating beverages shall be available. Well, that was not a bar, but I think... Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one. Alcoholic beverages shall be sold only to customers seated at tables and only when taking a table meal.
You're looking at number 20. So we're looking at condition 20 at the moment on my draft sheet.
But that's not the same. So we're talking about 20 now, aren't we?
We're talking about 20, but
Yes.
with your suggested additional wording about alcohol being tied to food as well.
I'm suggesting a different wording because this is our point.
Yep.
As we've made it clear, all our talk, everything we said is without prejudice to
Yes.
our main points.
Yep.
Our main point is no license. We might, as an alternative, well, maybe something like alcoholic beverages should be sold only to customers seated at tables and only when taking a table meal might be a possibility.
So you want it tied, you want alcohol sales tied into the customer being seated, waiter-waitress service and taking a table meal?
Yes.
Yes. Lana, your final comments? I know what your position is, but if I have your comments.
I think I've addressed this previously through there. We're happy with the wording as you've presented it in condition 20. We did want some flexibility in terms of the alcohol sales being ancillary to food. Just given the nature of what this premises is. We are not turning into a bar. I've said that numerous times, as everyone says, but we do need some flexibility for the local community to deal with that. And with all the other conditions in place and with what the operation will be, we can manage that. There hasn't been any, we're not anticipating any drunkenness or anyone just coming up, loading up with alcohol, etc. through there. It is a community cafe deli through there that we want people to be able to come in and if they want a glass of wine on the way home to be able to do that.
Just throwing it out there, if the committee, oh God, I've just lost my train of thought. What was I going to say? What about a condition along the lines of alcohol sales to be ancillary to use as a cafe, making it clear.
The main purpose of the premises being
a
cafe deli, we're more than happy with that.
Sorry,
which is an overriding
So if the committee weren't minded to agree to your wording...
Sorry?
If the committee weren't minded to agree to your wording, and they've just basically said that alcohol sales aren't the main thrust of their business, it's ancillary, I've just suggested another condition, which is that alcohol sales shall be ancillary to the main use of the premises as a cafe deli, service of food, just to kind of Bolton Brace's approach, as in it's more about the food than the alcohol.
Yeah, I think it goes back to what Councillor Evans was saying to me, in that we have to take it on trust that it's not a bar and wait and see and maybe complain. I think we'd be a lot more comfortable if it was tied down to some extent now with these conditions.
Thank you.
I'm looking in terms of enforcement. Now, I think what our lawyer is suggesting with both of your intentions makes sense. We're saying that you are suggesting that it's ancillary to food, and mentioning that they are a deli. Yes, I think that makes sense, because we don't want to later on get into a conversation, well, it's a deli. Deli has smaller portions than other kind of food. And I don't want the committee to later on be stuck when it comes to an enforcement, saying how much food, what measurement was that slice. So I think ancillary makes a lot of sense, and it supports both of your points.
Linda wants to comment.
Councillor Wade? I didn't have exact wording, but it was something along the lines of alcohol shall be ancillary to the main use of the premises for the provision or for the use as a cafe stroke deli.
Yeah.
So just making it clear that the cafe deli is the primary use and alcohol is ancillary. It's not.
That can be agreed.
Yeah, are you happy with that? Because that's clearer. If it's too broad, we won't be able to do anything in the case of an enforcement.
It does make it much clearer, but it's slightly nonsensical given that the applicants said that they would be serving very, very small side plates and that it is very hard to make money without a license. So to continually protest that food is their main offering and the thrust of their business is...
I think we're saying the same thing here.
Yeah, I understand what your point is, but obviously if the committee go away, I'm just trying to throw out various options, you know, which can be shaped depending on how they go. I just wanted it discussed by everyone. Councillor Wade, sorry.
I'm concerned about enforcement. How do you quantify what is ancillary?
Well, from my planning days, you'd look at receipts and they provide information like that. Obviously, it's down to evidence. Residents could go in or copies of menus. It's fact-based at the end of the day. I mean, there isn't an exact formula. That would be my view. I don't know if anybody else has got a view.
I would agree, and if enforcement officers went in and every single person was just drinking and had been there for some time just drinking, then I would say that's not ancillary to deal with that, but it's fact-based. I agree with your legal officer.
Yeah, that makes sense because of the type of food you sell. You could have 2 sausage rolls. Then one person will say, well, that's not a meal and this isn't a meal. This way we are saying you have to have something ancillary to the drinking.
And this is if you're minded not to kind of go for the full Monty, which the objectors are asking for. So we're just discussing alternatives
Exactly.
at this stage.
It has to be fact-based, especially, as you mentioned and I mentioned, in terms of enforcement. If it's too broad, we'll never get enforcement.
Right. Moving on, right, you've already got a dispersal plan, but you've put in the condition about obviously submitting it to the local authorities and having it available. I don't have any comments on that. And then the last 3 conditions are conditions which I've kind of suggested just based on what the objections I was reading, but I think the applicant has said they are agreeable to them. But there's number 20, you've already said there aren't going to be any licensable activities in the basement, so I don't anticipate. So that just basically confines licensable activities to the ground floor, makes it very clear. Number 23, subject to conditions 11 and 15. So 11 is about the off sales and 15 is about the smokers. The external forecourt areas shall be kept clear of all customers by, then I put 2200, which is if they get a pavement licence, that's the normal time that people have to remove them each day, and shall not be used for consumption of alcohol between 10 and 8 the following day, and all tables and chairs to be rendered unusable or removed as per the highway pavement licence stipulation times. So the highway licence has more authority than these times here, if they get a highway licence for a pavement.
It's only a small point. I think the word forecourt is misleading. If it was read by a table application committee later on, there is no forecourt. It's a narrow pavement. So I think pavement should say pavement, not forecourt. There's no
external
paved
forecourt. Area.
There's no forecourt. No, it's a tiny thin pavement, less than 6 feet wide.
Okay. Could we make it clear? It's a public pavement.
It's a public.
Yes, I mean, in
it's a public,
terms of
it's a public
highways,
right of way.
I just think the word forecourt is very misleading.
Okay, I take your point. In highways law, the word highway covers privately paved areas, forecourts, and the publicly maintained areas, like the nice Yorkstone pavement. So the word highway applies to both, and a pavement licence applies to the word highway, both. But I take your point, you want it belt and braces. Do you have a problem with that? Okay, so along that you want basically the highway.
Yeah.
Shall be kept clear. Okay. The adjoining highway. Yeah. Okay.
I think it's actually quite important because I think people will stand in the road because there's parking up that side and it's kind of stops on the corner. So I think people will naturally stand in the road.
Okay.
So I think highway is. I understand your precise definition of highway, but I actually think the general definition, including the road, is.
Okay. Right, okay, I'll make a note of that. And then the last one is the premises licence holder to host meetings with local residents and residents association once a year and put notices up and take minutes. I think the applicant's agreeable to that. Do you have any comments on that? Oh, right, sorry, Councillor Wade, sorry, beg your pardon.
I think in other locations we've had it that there's the potential twice a year. And given the fact that this is a densely populated area, residential area, I think that might help.
Lana?
There's no objection in principle for that. Perhaps we could say twice a year in the first year and then annually thereafter or so. I'll leave that to members as to what they see as reasonable. I am just minded that obviously it's a very small premises to deal with that and we don't want to be overly onerous, but I'll leave it with members.
Thank you. Mr. Melvin, did you have a point? Your microphone's on.
In error.
All right. Does anybody else have any comments on that? Right, that's all the conditions that are there. Is there anything else that you think we've discussed that you want to be discussed as a potential condition for the committee to consider? Objectors? Oh, sorry, Councillor Wade, beg your pardon.
I'd like my washing of pavements, please.
Councillor Wade
if
likes a standard condition.
If you're going to put your waste out on the pavement, I'd like to see the pavement washed, please.
Are you happy to sweep and clean the pavements? Anything else from the objectors? I think they're just chatting among themselves. I don't know whether they're... I don't know if they're considering at the moment or not.
Did you want to say something?
Forgive me.
We don't have summing up, just so you
Sorry?
know. We don't have summing up
Okay,
here.
then no summing up.
Just conditions.
This is all without prejudice.
Yes. Thank you. So you haven't got any other conditions to suggest? Okay, fine. Thank you. Back to you, Chair.
I just wanted to ask, you know if you have to organize and invite resident associations, you know which resident associations to contact?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. We have the current head of the Residents Association sitting behind us over here.
Which residents association?
Norland. Oh, sorry. Clarendon. Clarendon. Clarendon Cross Association. And yeah.
Who are the residents associations for the area, just so I can perhaps add that into the condition for belts and braces? So is it Clarendon?
Clarendon Cross Association.
Clarendon Cross, did you say?
Yes.
What other ones are there for the area?
That's.
Are there any other residents associations objectors that I should add in?
Yeah. That's the only one that that Little Julie's falls under.
For Norland, so you're the overriding residents association.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're not members of that association. I wondered how many residents are, and also maybe we should therefore put a suggestion into the 24th condition that you write to all of the local residents individually to call them for these meetings.
That will be impossible, but the details of the proposed meeting shall be clearly displayed on a window or door visible to people outside the premises at least 2 weeks beforehand. So obviously anyone who belongs to a residents association will possibly get notified in addition to this site notice. Otherwise, it would be impossible to kind of...
To drop leaflets around to the locals.
Yeah, it would just be impossible to be... And then people will get missed and they wouldn't know which premises have residents in. So as long as there's a notice in the window, I think that's enforceable.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it will be displayed more clearly than Julie's previous notices. Thank you.
Okay. Do our licensing officers have anything to add?
Nothing further from licensing. Thank you for the opportunity, Chair.
Thank you. And our governance officers, anything to add?
Nothing from us, Chair.
We've reached the end of this meeting. The committee now has all the information needed, and we will retire to make our decision in private session. We will not announce the decision today. Instead, the hearing will be closed. A summary determination will be sent to the parties within 5 working days of today's meeting, and a full decision will follow as soon as possible thereafter. The time limit for appealing the decision will not commence until the full decision has been sent. I want to thank everyone for their contributions. It's nice to be able to communicate to both sides of this application, and thank you again. Bye-bye.